Hi guys, it's Crystal from Pure, and I am super excited to talk about this lesson, which is Bridge, and the next one is ACR, or Adobe Camera Raw. This is my bread and butter. Rachel uses Lightroom, and I use Bridge and ACR. And there's nothing wrong with one or the other, it's just whatever you've gotten into a groove with, and I learned in Photoshop and Bridge and ACR, and so I'm comfortable with that. I do love Lightroom. However, if I had to choose, I would choose Bridge and ACR. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive right in. There's so many tools behind Bridge and ACR, and today we're going to talk about Bridge specifically, and then the next lesson will be ACR. And once you learn how to master these two programs, very rarely do I have to open an image into Photoshop unless there's any fine tuning that needs to be done. For example, our wedding clients, they get an album, and those images that go in the albums or that are printed are fine-tuned, skin smoothing, clear up skin, that type of thing. And so I do open those into Photoshop. However, most of my editing for my clients, my clean edits, are done inside of Bridge and ACR. And so I'm just going to kind of walk through this. So Bridge is basically to Photoshop what the library mode is in Lightroom. And so you can add keywords, you can rate photos, you can cull, and you can even do some very simple editing, batch type of editing. You can rename photos and things like that. So I'll just go ahead and get started. So first you have over on this left-hand side here, you have your favorites, and you have just your direction of how deep you've gone into your hard drives. And so then right here you have your favorites. And so if I come over here to my computer, and I know that I'm always using a specific hard drive, which is the MyBook for Mac. I know that I'm always using that. And so instead of having to always come back here and try to find it, I can go ahead and just drag it over to here so it's in my favorites folder. And so you just select this and drag it over and it'll stay there. So that's super nice because when you open Bridge, it'll be right there. So I can go ahead and just click it and then everything's right there. And then you can click this little arrow and you can choose the folder that you want to navigate towards. You can also double click those folders that were here. So I'll go ahead and open these images here. And so what you'll see is it opens up all these images and shows you a preview, just a little thumbnail. And if you click an image, it'll show it on the side right here with all the data that comes associated with that image. And so up here you have your different ways you can view Bridge. This is how I prefer to view Bridge. I don't need a super huge view of the photo itself, because when I do need a big view of the photo, I just hit the space bar and it brings this up full screen. And the reason why I use the space bar is when I'm culling my images, I like to be able to look at 100% preview of my photo. So I can see if it's in focus or if I need to toss the image. And so when you're in this full screen mode, you can use your arrow keys to navigate between photos. And so if you zoom in at 100% on one previous photo, if you click the arrow to go to the next one, it will stay at 100% preview. And so I can see that these ones are in focus. This image I focused on the front of the shoe. This image I focused on the name. And I can go through, and there's some pullbacks. I can go through and see if the images are in focus. If I hit the escape button, it brings me back to this view. So the other one is your film strip view, where you can look at it through this way. This is fine. I just prefer the other way. You can also look at it through the metadata. I don't look at it through this way hardly ever. I can't think of a time that I've ever actually looked at it this way. So then you have your different options here. So this little button here shows you get different options for how you can view your previews. And so in Lightroom, when you import your images, you can import 100% preview. And this you can choose 100% preview. The reasoning behind that is when you're culling thousands of images for, say, a wedding, if you're waiting for the photo to render at 100% to see if it's in focus, even if it only takes, a couple seconds, when you're doing 1,500 images, that adds up. So I would always suggest choosing generate 100% preview, and then kind of walk away and let it do its thing. It's got to generate those previews for you. So then when you are trying to, I'll choose another image here, see if an image is in focus. If I zoom into 100%, you can see that it said loading, and I can tell right away this one's not in focus. It's blurry, and I wouldn't give that to my client. So if I click here, I'm at 100%, and you see how fast it loaded that preview? I can automatically tell right away that it's in focus. I can automatically tell that is not in focus. I can tell that is in focus. And so that's the reason why I would suggest choosing high quality and generate 100% preview. And then you have right here your filters and your stars. So when you rate an image, and this is, I'll get into this in a little bit when I cull my images, I give it a 5-star rating. And so when I give it a 5-star rating, that means I like the image and I want to edit it. The reason why I do that is because then I can choose this filter that says show 5 stars. And there should be no images. There's currently no images that are 5-star because there's been no images edited in this folder. And no images have been culled. So if I chose a bunch of images that I liked, let me go ahead and come right here. This one's got a 1-star rating, and you see that it did not show that. But if I choose show 1 star or more, there's that image. So the reason why I choose to use a 5-star for the images that I want to edit is that I will go through and cull my images, and I will give those a 5-star. And then as I edit the images, I will give it a 1-star. And I'll show you how to do that. There are short keys for this. So when I am culling, I will hit the space bar and I will bring it full screen. And if you command 1, if you pay attention to the lower left-hand corner, you'll see a star. Command 2 is a 2-star. Command 3, 3. Command 4, 4. And command 5 is a 5-star. So when I'm culling, I literally just put my left hand on the command button and the number 5 button. And then my right hand is sitting on the arrow buttons. And I will just go through, and first gut instinct is if I like the image, I will command 5. Command 5. Obviously, I don't want to keep these. Command 5. Let's see, I like this one better. Command 5. Command 5. Okay, so let me just go ahead and show you now what happens. So if I come over here, let's say I've done that to this entire wedding. And then I come up here and I'm like, okay, I only want to see the images that I said were good enough to edit. I can come up here to this little star and say show 5 stars only. So now it's only showing me these images. And so let's say I edit an image. And I'll double click this and bring this into ACR. We'll get into ACR in a second, but let's say I edit this image and I hit done. So I can come back here and I can go command 1 and it drops it off. So now I don't see that image anymore. And the reason why that's important for me is because as I'm editing a wedding, it's nice to know how much I have left to do. And so if I showed 1 or more stars, now that image comes back, and now I have to think about the fact that, wait, that's a 1-star, I've already edited that image, or that's a 5-star, I've already edited that image, and the 1 stars are the ones that I need to edit. This, if I just come over here and I say show 5 stars, it drops it off. It doesn't delete the image, but I can get to it very easily when I'm done, and I can see that I only have 5 images left to edit. And I use it to kind of motivate myself to keep going because I know that that's all I have left to do. And so the other cool thing is if I edit multiple images. So let's say I select the first one, I hold down my shift button, and I select the last image, and it selects everything in between. So if I hit enter to edit these images, let's say I've edited all of these images. The nice thing about this is I can, again, the same way that I opened multiple images, I can select the first one, hold the shift button, select the last one, and Command I, and it changes them into a 1-star inside of Camera Raw. So if I hit done, I come back here and they're gone. It's super simple and super easy, and it keeps things neat and tidy. And then let's change these to 1s. Okay, so now I can say show 1 stars or more. And now I've got all these images here, and I know that they have been edited and they are ready to export and save for my clients to then upload to their gallery. So, and I'll walk through how to do that once we're inside of the Adobe Camera Raw tutorial. But right now, that is how I utilize the ratings and the star filters. It's super convenient and I super love it. So I'm going to go ahead and change these back to Command 5. So again, select the first one, Shift button, select the last one, and then you can just Command 5 and it changes it back. So now I'll go over here and hit Clear Filter because I don't want to just see those. But it doesn't get rid of the ratings. Now I'm back to where I see everything. And so also to note, when I select 3, when I come up here and I say show 5 stars, you'll see that down here in the lower left-hand corner, it says 6 items, 3,309 hidden. And it says 3 selected because I have 3 images selected right there. But it's showing you how many items it's showing you, how many items you have selected, and how many items have been hidden. So this comes in handy, especially as you're culling and you're just kind of giving it a first gut instinct. And let's say you had 3,300 images and you've culled it down to 2,000. If you feel like maybe that's a little bit much, you can go back through and again cull with a gut instinct again. And if I don't want this to be a 5-star rating anymore, because Command 5 is 5-star, if I Command 0, it takes away that rating. And so now that image disappears because there's no rating attached to that. So if you give all these images 5 stars and you end up with too many, you can go back through and cull, and just like you did Command 5 with your left hand, you can just Command 0. So super easy and convenient to cull your images. I can cull an entire wedding in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, especially if I'm just using what's my first gut instinct. Once you start trying to think too much about it, it takes longer, it gets more complicated, and then you kind of go, oh, I just don't know. They might like it, they might not. If I ever find myself saying they might like it, they might not, I just don't know, I always include it. And then as I'm editing, sometimes I'll find images where I'm like, oh, not impressed. Don't super love that now that I've got it edited. And I can Command 0 it and it's gone. Okay, so let me get to the next. So now over here you have your keywords. So you can, and over here you have filters where you can filter by keywords. So you can add keywords to these images, which is super nice if you're looking for detail shots later. Let's say you want to look at all the detail shots that you have from all your previous weddings. So all you have to do is, again, you select the first one and you hold down Shift and you select the last one. And then if you want to unselect these, you hit the Command button and select that image. And so now I've got all these images selected, and I can right click and I can hit File Info. And this opens up this little box here where you can add anything that you want. You can change or add your copyright notice. You can add a URL. You can add your keywords. So I can write wedding details and wedding shoes and Jimmy Choo and anything that you want. You can write a description. I can go Amber and Charlie wedding. So then I can go ahead and hit OK, and it will update all of that information. And so now if I click Jimmy Choo, it's only going to show me the things that I've labeled Jimmy Choo. These should not be labeled that, but I was just showing you. So I can go ahead and select these also right click File Info and delete the Jimmy Choo tag and hit OK. So now that I'm looking at Jimmy Choo, you see that those disappeared now because those obviously aren't the right tag. So you can add keywords, you can search by keywords. It makes it super convenient, especially if you're wanting to submit to a blog and you want to find just detail images. You can just search over here. So now you have your keywords and you can just select wedding details or wedding shoes and make sure you unselect the no keywords, because there's 3,200 images that have no keywords, and I can select Jimmy Choo. You can select as many as you want: wedding shoes, Amber and Charlie wedding, whatever you want, and then it'll only show you those images. Okay, so I've walked through how to open multiple images. I've walked through how to add folders over here to your favorites. And now I'm going to walk through how to change the name of the files. And so when you have a wedding, specifically a wedding, even portrait photography, when you upload the files and the client downloads them and they're like, oh, I'm missing file A40A6004. I would really like to see that one because I'm not super in love with 003 or 005. And it kind of gets like, oh, seriously, like you don't get every single image from a session. So you want to avoid and prevent that from happening. And so you can just batch rename your client's images. So once I've edited the images, once I have gotten these all down and they're all 1 stars. So let me go ahead and change them to 1 stars. So let's say I've edited these images and now I'm ready to save them and export them and upload them to my client gallery. I don't want to upload them like this because this is 6009, 6011. And what happened to the 5 images between 11 and 16 and 18 and 22? So you select all your images and then you right click and you hit batch rename. And you can rename in the same folder, which is exactly what I do. You can move to another folder and you could name those. You could rename them and move to another folder and call the folder edited raws or chosen raws or whatever you want to name it. I just rename in the same folder. Or you can copy an additional copy to another folder. I don't do that because it takes up so much space. And so I just rename in the same folder. And I use the text, and you can add more options by clicking this plus button. You can make it as detailed or as very basic as you want. And so I'll usually do a text and I'll say Amber Charlie wedding. And you can also do Amber Charlie engagement or Valentine's mini sessions or anything like that. And then you can, right here, you can do you can add to it. So right now you see the current file name is this long 6009. And you see that the new file name will be Amber Charlie wedding. And so I can go ahead and give it a sequence number. And you can say 2 digits or 3 digits. Obviously, if there is 1,000 images, you're going to want to choose 4 digits. And so you just put to start with number 1 and you go on. You can also do this as you are editing, because let's say you want to export 50 images and then later on you come back and you edit another 50. You can start this at 51. And right here I have 5 images selected. So if I wanted to, I could start it at 6 because I did 5 before, or however you want. And so the new file name would be Amber Charlie Wedding 0001. And so if I hit rename, it'll change, and it will change these to 0002, 0003, 0004, and so on. It's just taking a moment. And here we go. So now we have Amber Charlie Wedding 0001, and then we have 2, 3, 4, 5. And so there will be no question to your client from your clients about where's image number 5 to 15, because I'm wondering if I just like my expression in those better. So definitely rename your files before you export them and save them, because then you'll come in here and you'll select one and you'll select the last one. So if there's 1,000 images or 50 images or however many, and you'll hit enter and it'll open it up into Camera Raw. And then the same, you select the first one and then select the last one, and then you hit save images. And we'll go through how to do that once we're into the Camera Raw tutorial. But that is how you would batch rename and then batch save, and then you can upload to whatever client viewing software that you use. And so once you edit these images, so let me come over here and edit this image right here. Let me get rid of this filter. It's taking a little bit. Sorry about that. Oh my goodness. Okay, there it goes. I was like, come on. Okay, so let's look at this image right here. So I'll double click it to open this image. And as we shoot details, we shoot individual things, and then we kind of start stacking them on top of each other and shooting. And eventually we have one big image with all the different little details. So I'll come in here and edit this image. And I'm not going to explain exactly what I'm doing because, again, in the Camera Raw tutorial, I'll be explaining all these tools. So let's say I like that. If you hit cancel, it'll cancel your edit. If you hit done, it'll save that edit. So let me come back to Bridge. And now we have this edit here. And it has, I've cropped it, so it's got this little crop tool, and it's got this little circle with 2 lines and triangles, and that says that you've edited the image. So what this tells you is that there is now another file associated with this, and it's called an XMP file. And that XMP file is what holds your edit for that image. And so if I right click and hit reveal in Finder, that will show me where the image is. Come on. Okay, so here's the image right here. And so if I separate by name, you'll see that there is an XMP file right here. And so what that is if I delete that, watch this edit right here. It will go back to the original raw edit. This XMP file is what holds your edit. So whatever you do to the image, it is looking to that file when you open it up, or when you're even viewing a preview. It's showing you, it's like that file is laying right on top of your image. And so if I right click and I hit delete, move to trash, this image now will go back to the original raw image. So it doesn't delete the image, but it does delete the edit to that image. And so make sure that if you move your images anywhere or you delete anything, you move the XMP with it, or you delete just the XMP. Okay, so we've talked about that, and we've talked about star ratings, we've talked about folders. You can inside of here also add a folder. So right here I have my Charlie and Amber wedding folder, and then I have my exported files and I have my raw files. So if I double click my exported files, I break it into different categories: ceremony, getting ready, reception, rehearsal. If you right click, you can click new folder and you can name it whatever you want. I'll just name it test folder. And so you can name it bridals or details, or if you upload a sneak peek, you can name it sneak peek edits or blog edits or whatever you want. You can do that right inside of Bridge. The other cool thing that we're going to talk about is editing inside of Bridge. So let's say that you always do a specific edit to an image. So let's say you sharpen a specific way, and so you've created a preset that replicates what you do every single time. And so there's a way to edit that so you don't have to individually go in and select that preset. You can do that beforehand. So if I want to apply an edit to say all of these, I can select it, the first one, shift key, select the last one, right click, and come down here to develop settings. And in here, it will show you all of your presets that you have saved in Camera Raw. We'll talk about adding presets and saving presets and creating presets and so on in the Camera Raw tutorial. But right now, this is all I have in there. So I can sharpen it. This is a sharpen with a mask. This is a preset that I created. If I select it, it will apply that edit to all of those images. And so if I know that I do that to every single image, then I can go ahead and do that inside of Bridge. And so now if I open this image, I can come over to the sharpening and I see that it's sharpened with the mask. And so I'll go ahead and hit done, and that's how you can do some batch editing inside. The other way that you can do it is you can, let's say I open this image and I do my edit. Let me see, I add some sharpening with a mask. And let me see, I maybe brighten. It's super blurry. I don't know why I chose this image. I would not typically choose this. So let me go ahead and say, I'm going to make this super bright so you can see what I'm doing. And I'll say done. So I'll come back to Bridge, and there's the image. I can right click, develop settings, copy settings, and then I can choose these two images, right click, develop settings, paste settings, and it will paste the same exact edit to those images. So that's another way you can do it. However, I'm going to walk you through ACR, and I feel like that's a few extra steps that when you're editing lots of images, you want to refine your editing process down to as few steps as possible. And I feel like this just adds a couple of extra unnecessary steps. So I don't know if I would do that, but it is possible for you to do. So I'm going to go ahead and reveal in Finder and delete these XMPs because those are horrible. Okay, so now those edits are going away. Thank goodness. So I think that I've pretty much covered everything with Camera Raw, and not Camera Raw, but with Bridge and the different tools that you can use inside of Bridge. It is a very powerful program if you know how to use it and you take the time to get comfortable with it. But it can be a learning curve and it can take a little bit of time. But once you get it, your workflow will be speedy fast. And like I said, I do a lot of my stuff inside of Camera Raw and Bridge. And you kind of got a glimpse of that with the editing inside of Camera Raw there for a second. But in the next video, we're going to show Camera Raw, and then you'll learn how to combine the two tools. And really, unless you're doing some fine tuning inside of Photoshop or trying to get a specific style, there really isn't a lot of need for opening images all the way into Photoshop. So check out the next video. Thanks so much.